Last night, Capcom blessed us with a Welcome to Dragon's Dogma 2 video narrated by British actor Ian McShane. I'll leave a link to this video down below. Now, the great thing about this presentation is that it was mostly focused on the story in the world while also giving us some new gameplay, but then it still ended with some epic monster slaying. The first section of the video is titled The Hero, and it starts off showing us some new footage of the big bad dragon, who's essentially the main antagonist, albeit it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And my god, this dragon is looking epic. It's such a great step up from the dragon Gregorio in Dragon's Dogma 1. I personally really love how this dragon isn't really portrayed as this beautiful creature. You know, when you fight dragons in other games, they are frightening and ruthless, but they tend to also be quite beautiful looking creatures when not attacking you. Well, the dragon in DD2 is terrifying in all aspects, looks and also behavior. And just knowing that fighting this dragon is essentially our main task in the game, this motivates me to really want to make sure that my character is prepared for that battle when the day finally comes. Now, those of you who are unfamiliar with DD lore, the guardian of the world is known as the Seneschal, and this is basically a god. I think it's a little bit mysterious. And when the Seneschal's time starts to draw to an end, the world will start to slowly lose its volition, and it'll eventually become an empty shell of false life if nothing is done to prevent this. And to prevent this, the Seneschal will send out a powerful dragon to search for the next potential candidate for this Seneschal godly position. Now we'll look at this dragon as sort of a demigod in a way, and this dragon will take out the heart of those that he sees as potential candidates, and then these chosen ones lose their humanity and become what the game calls arisen, with their ultimate task being to power up, train, and then attempt to beat the dragon to get their heart back. Now, the arisen who is able to do this becomes the next Seneschal. Now, if you guys want more in-depth lore and story, let me know in the comments below, and I'll do a video or two for you before DD2 releases. Now, shortly after that, we got a really cool scene of the arisen once again approaching the dragon, but this actually might be end game or late game. I don't want to say end game because after you defeat the dragon, there will probably be more to do in the game. But notice the character's armor and just the way that they look like they've been training for a long time and the moment has finally come. So cool little scene to see. We then got a few scenes about pawns and the rift, and this right here is a rift stone which allows the arisen to travel to the rift, which is like an alternate dimension or plane of existence or something like that. And the rift is used by pawns to travel to different worlds to help out arisen in their task to defeat the dragon. Pawns are definitely mysterious beings, but what we do know is that they're not human and that their life's duty is basically to help arisen. So this is why we get our own main custom pawn, but also can hire up to 2 other pawns at a time from the rift to accompany us on our journey. And these pawns will not only help in combat, but they also offer advice. Really fun system in this game that makes it quite unique, and the cool thing is that you can hire other players' pawns in the rift, including your friends' pawns. This is why I came up with the idea of making my main pawn in Dragon's Dogma 2 myself, as opposed to my arisen character being myself, because I thought it would be really cool to let people hire me in their games as a pawn, as opposed to hiring a randomly made RP character. Now, if you want to share your pawns with me or want to hire old Wolfheart for a quest or two in your game, my Steam name is WolfheartFPS. Also consider joining the Discord server. I'll leave a link below, as I will have a chat specifically on my server to help people connect with their pawns. On a side note, if you're not aware, you can download the DD2 character creator right now and create your arisen and also your main pawn, which will be transferred to the game when it comes out. This is free. Part 2 of the video focuses on the different nations of the world, all 3 of which are different not only in appearance as they lie in different types of biomes, but they also are all drastically different from a cultural standpoint. And this is super exciting, as experiencing these cultures will be a huge tie-in to the actual story. Vermund is the human nation, a fertile land cradled by alpine peaks and rolling hills. We got to see an awesome new shot of the fortress city of Vermund in the distance. I'm loving how it has many similarities to Grand Soren from DD1, while also at the same time clearly being a different place. I think it looks great, and I'm really loving the medieval architecture style. You know, seeing these farming fields outside of the city, it's really giving a realistic medieval times vibe. The world is very grounded looking, but at the same time, the monsters in this world are not, which is a really fun combination in games and also movies. We got to see some shots of Vermund Palace within the fortress, which is looking really good. And traditionally in this world, this is where the Arisen gets revered as the sovereign. Basically, Arisen are looked at as heroes that protect the world from the dragon. But as we know from other videos, there's a bit of a power struggle going on here for the throne. And the current queen has plans on setting a false Arisen on the throne. And this, of course, is going to create some political conflict that I'm almost certain will lead to some violent situations. The nation of Batal is the land where the beastren race lives, and as you can see, it's quite different from Vermund, as this is not exactly fertile land. This shot right here is one of my favorites, as you can see the player character walking up to the edge of a cliff and just simply looking out at the world. Capcom is clearly teasing us with the vastness and openness of this world, and it's even said that this game's map will be 4x the size of the original. In the original game, DD1, although not insanely huge, is certainly not small. Due to Batal's harsh landscape, you'll find gondolas to help you travel places, but don't expect beautiful sightseeing on every trip, as flying monsters will be taking notice of you. Now, another contrast from Vermund to Batal is that while in Vermund, the Arisen and their pawns are worshipped in a way, but in Batal, Arisen and pawns are despised and they're looked at as a source of grave misfortune. The beastren in Batal actually worship what's called the lambent flame, which they believe protects them from the calamity of the dragon, so they're really not trying to play any part in that. So Batal basically wants nothing to do with the Arisen or pawns, but as you probably will predict, they won't have much of a choice, as our story will be part of their story. I'm super excited to explore this place, and I think it's great that it's going to offer a totally different vibe from Vermund. And the last place that we were shown, but certainly not least, is the home of the elves, Sacred Arbor. This is major hype, as elves, among some other races, were apparently cut from the original game due to budgeting and time constraints. Sacred Arbor is where an ancient sect of elves reside in seclusion, and the really cool thing is that these elves speak Elvish, so you actually won't be able to communicate well with them unless you have a pawn who has a certain trait that allows them to translate for you, or there might be NPCs in the game that can help you with that. Super cool and immersive mechanic, if you ask me. We did see a bit more of Sacred Arbor in a video in the past, but largely it's still a very mysterious place. I'm not exactly sure if we're going to have like open world freedom in this forested area, or if it's really just this elven camp that we'll be visiting, but we'll have to wait and see. The third part of the video, of course, had to show us some combat, one of the highlights of a Dragon's Dogma game, actually the highlight. But this part actually focused on the monsters themselves. This new gameplay was great though, and we got to see a few new shots of weapon skills, such as this rapid shot from the archer, and then this really epic combo where a thief player uses a skill that I think is called Ensnare, and they throw a rope out at a Saurian creature, yank it, causing them to tumble forward, and then the player absolutely destroys this creature with their daggers. But now it's King Kong time. Don't want to get caught in his hands. Wolves hunting packs arisen, and my god, we got an epic gameplay scene of a drake right here. This is not technically a dragon. Such an epic looking scene, and you can see a major sorcerer pawn to the left levitating over the fire towards the dragon's head. And for those of you guys that didn't play DD1, monsters and creatures in this world tend to have weak points that need to be exploited, such as cutting off the tails of the Saurians before you attempt to actually kill them. We now know that a golem creature will be returning from DD1, and with this creature you have to climb around it in an attempt to destroy these runes on its body, which are charming it to basically fight. And then we were reminded by Ian McShane how nighttime in this game is absolutely no joke. Capcom likes to go a little hardcore with their mechanics at times, and at nighttime not only will new creatures arise, such as undead and skeletons, but having a light source is of prime importance. Most games make nighttime just a beautiful dim environment, but in DD2, no, it's scary and most importantly, very dark. You know, one thing that I really appreciate about DD1, and this seems to be the same for DD2, is that your core skills, your more basic weapon attacks, specifically with the martial classes, are just really solid feeling, extremely satisfying to use. This simple light stab that you see this fighter doing right here, I'm like super amped up to just do that, and it's such a simple foundational mechanic. We got to see a Minotaur but also some more Medusa creature gameplay. And I have a feeling that fighting this creature will present some really interesting mechanics, perhaps sometimes frustrating, but hopefully also rewarding. Let's hope that the turn to stone spell is only temporary. We got to see more of a Dullahan, which is clearly going to be a nighttime creature. What an awesome design as it's holding its head in its hands, kind of giving a little bit of a headless horseman vibe, but there's no horse. The classic Chimera is making a return, and this is the first big creature that you fight in the DD1 prologue. Many creatures in this game do require some strategy behind defeating them. You can't just hack and slash all of them like you might in some other games. For example, the Chimera's snake head shoots out poison and can, put a bunch of dots on players, which is damage over time. The goat's head actually heals the creature, and the lion's head bites really damn hard. So if you're trying to take out the lion head first, for example, but the goat is putting out more heals than your damage output, you obviously have to switch up your strategy a bit and maybe attack the goat or perhaps the snake. I actually like to take out the snake head first in DD1, and then I move on to the goat. We've seen a ton of Griffin gameplay up to this point, and I don't know about all of you, but I do plan on attempting to ride on its back a few times. I'm assuming it's going to require stamina, but I'm gonna surf that mofo. And at the end of the video, Capcom did not disappoint, as we got to see some more of the bronze giant Telos, clearly inspired by Pillars of Eternity, I would say. And yeah, that's basically it for this video. All DD2 information, news, gameplay is always fun to talk about and get hyped up about. If you guys want an overview of all 10 vocations in the game, I'll have a video pop up right now on your screen, so you can check that out and start deciding what you may be doing, although you can play all the vocations in this game. Alongside video content, I also do live streams right here on this YouTube channel and also on Twitch at WolfheartFPS. Catch you all in the next one.